It is the month of May, and that means I am no longer working exceptionally long hours. It also means I'm not getting paid as much. So, there's a trade-off. But hey, I'll take the free time. We can get back to podcasting and doing the right things. Now, I'm not unemployed. Got extended, so I'm going to be working until June with the same company doing taxes. It's just instead of the massively long hours that were happening during the tax season, it's going to be, a more typical 9 to 5 with a couple of side hustles in play and just a lot more chill. So we should be getting the standard preview and recap podcasts once again. So let's talk about the two cards that I didn't get recaps in for real quickly. Let's just steer into that for a moment here, which is UFC Della Maddalena versus Pratis, which I am disappointed I didn't get a prediction video out for because my picks were real good. They were real solid. And the only one, unfortunately, I lost the main event. But outside of the main event, the only other fight I lost was Dom Marfan, Cody Steele, which was kind of like it was a prove-it pick. Cody Steele had historically only been able to bully breakable fighters in fights. Guys who had physical laxness to him and a strategic game that wasn't able to really respond to it. And I thought Dom Marfan would have a little bit of that. And I wasn't entirely wrong, but he was able to bully him and eventually get a heel hook. So that was a loss, plus the main event. Didn't go my way. I'm not surprised that Pratis can knock out Jack Della Maddalena, but the performance he put on, oh my lord. That version of Carlos Pratis is a title contender. And this is maybe the first time I've said that because even the win over Leon Edwards was when Leon Edwards started doing some dumb stuff. The win over Jeff Neal, I've never had that big of a thought on Jeff Neal. And of course, the loss to Ian Gary. The win over Neil Magny doesn't really mean much. The Leech is not really good at this point. Charles Radke, Trevor Jones, not there. Not the level of this. But Jack Della, as much as he's one of the less imposing, less believable champions in recent memory, he was a champion. And to go out there and absolutely bully him and not have him, make bad decisions like Leon Edwards did, for example, but to have him go out there and just seemingly have no answers for what Pratis was doing, good lord. Now, I am still going to probably pick Makhachev if he ever fights him, but there's a solid chance I don't pick anyone else to beat him until that point. It's like I could see Michael Morales doing it because he's just like a freak. Like Michael Morales beating anyone is like, I can picture it in my head. It's like it's spastic athletic moment, boom, and the fight is over. But we're getting hard to pick it. So that was interesting. Quillan Salakil knocking out Beneil Dariush. Sadly doesn't really mean much. Dariush is just kind of done. Steve Erceg versus Tim Elliott, with Steve Erceg outlasting Tim Elliott in a way that many people have done. Marwan Rahiki versus Ollie Schmidt was promotional malpractice, which, by the way, promotional malpractice, karate combat, putting Larissa Pacheco against somebody who was 0-0. Good lord. Brando Perisic versus Shamil Gaziev. That was interesting. I'm really here for a heavyweight prospect, and Perisic actually went out there and he beat up Gaziev, who is not a bad fighter. He is a fighter who is probably a bit overhyped at one point, but he is a reasonably athletic, reasonably explosive, reasonably powerful, reasonably strong, reasonably durable guy. And Perisic went out there and got the finish, so that's very cool. Now, downside heavyweight, Tai Tuivasa versus Louis Sutherland was not a very good fight. Had a couple of cool moments, but overall not a good fight. Same with Cam Ralston versus Robert Brychek. The commentary's attempts to make Ralston into a prospect is a bit weird. Junior Toffa knocking out Kevin Christian doesn't mean anything. Kevin Christian is bad. Kevin Christian is, I am really tall. You're going to get uncomfortable striking with me. And you're going to go to the ground with me, and then I'm going to hit a triangle or an armbar or something. That describes his game. And that's it. Jacob Malkoon, JM3, was better than I expected, but also not very good. Colby Thickness, Vince Morales was a good scrap. Enjoyed it a lot. Wes Schultz versus Ben Johnston. I thought Schultz would get an early sub. He got a late sub. So that was kind of impressive. Like that the cardio held up, because Schultz's big issue is cardio. He tends to die in round 2. So that was good. That being said, Ben Johnston is not UFC caliber, so the quality of the win doesn't really mean anything, but like the fact that it came in the third round does, if that makes any sense. Jonathan McAllister and Garimbo went about as expected. I think those two guys are guys who desperately need to find something more than what they have. They have the physical talent. It's not like they're not hard capped, but they are capped technically, I think, and in terms of decision making, particularly with McAuliffe. But we'll see. And then Cody, I already talked about Cody Steele and Don Marfan. We go back to the Apex. Aljamain Sterling beating Yusuf Zalal. Won a bunch of money on that. Happy about that, but I don't know. Not particularly impressive otherwise. Jocelyn Edwards versus Norma Dumont was bad. Congratulations to Edwards on getting the win. Rafa Garcia, Alex Hernandez was better than expected. Davey Grant versus Adrian Luna Martinelli. That was really, really, really fun, but I mean, it also highlights the problem for Martinelli going forward is that at a UFC level, this guy is a pure pace fighter. And I think that barring very few exceptions, I'm not really certain he's going to get wins. They're going to be fun. I'm here for them, but they're going to be losses. Montel Jackson, Ronnie Barcelos was bad, although I think a lot of people are angry about the Barcelos decision win, which is, I don't know, it was a bit weird. Like, I'm not saying that you had to score this fight for Barcelos by any means, because the only definitive round, the only round with a lot of damage is round 1, and it's Montel Jackson's round. But at the same time, I think there was just a lot of credit being given to Jackson for damage done in the first round. They're like, look at the face, look how damaged he is. It's like, yeah. That all happened in round 1. He won round 1. That's fine. That's good. I have no problem with that. You wouldn't zero, none whatsoever. But rounds 2 and rounds 3 were not a lot of damage. People were kind of like acting like they were. Ryan Spahn versus Marcus Buchecha was sloppy, entertaining, fun for a heavyweight fight, but at the same time disappointing because like Buchecha, when he got signed, I was like, yeah, this is cool. We got a jiu-jitsu world champion guy who, I know is limited. I know he lost and won to Rug. I know that he's not going to be the conquering champion, whatever. Probably not even going to be a title contender, but his run in the UFC has been really bad, and not really here for it. This was the best fight, and it was just a sloppy one. Eric McConaughey, Rodolfo Vieira, better than I expected. Jackson McVeigh made short work of Cedric Dumas. Yes! Get Dumas out of the UFC, please, for the love of God. And I want to be clear on this, because every time I say something about Dumas, somebody comes back with, well, you just want to punish this guy for being a criminal, but you were okay with Mike Perry being here, and whatever. Like if he's not in the system, he can fight. Here's the problem. Honestly, I'm gonna surprise some people here. My problem with Cedric Dumas as a person is that he's a criminal, and that he's unrepentant, and he's gonna keep doing it, and like so on. Like this isn't there has been zero reform. But my problem with him as a fighter is he sucks. And he's a liability both on a PR level and on a card structure level, because he's already pulled out of, I believe, 2 fights because he's on house arrest. I would get rid of him. He is bad and not worth the headache. Please get rid of it. He's not getting better, actually. Like legitimately, this was his worst fight. Like, he's a guy who got to the UFC very underseasoned, and it's like, oh, well, he'll learn. He's got some athletic ability, and maybe he'll turn into something, and needs to hook up with a better gym, but probably can't. But I'm not kidding here. His worst fights have been Jackson McVeigh and Dante Johnson. Those are his last 2 fights. He's gotten worse. Far from improving, this guy is getting worse. And that's why I have no interest in seeing him fight. Michelle Montague beat Mayra Bueno Silva. The only interesting thing there was commentary being so steadfastly against the 10-8 round, where Montague had all the offense, essentially, because Mayra Bueno Silva was not bleeding. And later on, saying that Aljamain Sterling should get a 10-8 round for what amounted to control and backpacking. The fuck? Cody Durden, Jafel was fine for a flyweight bout. It's weird that we're making a big deal about it being a bantamweight fight, and it's like they're both flyweights, though. It's just a short notice fight. Francis Marshall, Lucas Brennan. Lucas Brennan is not UFC caliber. and he got beat. Victor Valenzuela and Max Griffin. Max Griffin is no longer UFC caliber, and I'm not entirely certain that Victor Valenzuela is. Toledo Alan Carr versus Julia Plastri, was Julia Plastri being far too timid to actually win the fight. There you go. I do actually think that she still won it. I thought this was a bad decision, but I'm just saying. You're walking into a loss fighting the way that she is against somebody who's going to get top control against you, the way that Alan Carr was going to. That's all I'm saying. So, let's get on to the current fight card and get the usual betting speech out of the way. Do I bet on MMA fights? Yes. Am I going to talk about information that you can use to bet on MMA fights? Yes. Do I recommend betting a lot on MMA fights? No. The sport is chaotic, unreliable, and you should not be looking at it as a path to financial freedom, because that would be a very bad idea. Anyways, let's get on to the fights. UFC 328, Chimaev versus Strickland. This one is coming to us live from the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey, and it's a good card. Like, full stop, good card. There are some things to pick at it. Obviously, the main event is, while a certainly deserving title shot for Sean Strickland, and I know that there's a couple of people that are going to be surprised to hear me say that, it's not necessarily the most, how should I put this? Intriguing of matchups. But Joshua Van versus Tetsuya Taira as a co-main event is phenomenal. Volkov versus Waldo Cortez Acosta feels very applicable to the heavyweight division. Sean Strickland versus Joaquin Buckley is very applicable to the welterweight division. And also, if I'm being honest, feels like just a really good test for both guys. King Green versus Jeremy Stevens. Okay, that's the bad fight of the main card. That's two old guys going at it. But if you're going to have them fight, you're going to have Jeremy Stevens fight. This is the type of fight I want to see him in. Someone who's going to stand and bang with him is unlikely to wrestle him. So, on that regard, it's a good job, even if like the relevance and the intrigue is pretty minimal. Tiba Goche versus Ozzy Diaz. Not super interesting, but like Atiba Goche is a massive prospect that I'm here to see, and I'm happy he's not being rushed in this whole thing. So that's perfectly fine. Yoel Alvarez versus Yaroslav Amosov. Also fine. Grant Dawson versus Mateusz Ramboski. Also fine. Jim Miller versus Jared Gordon. Kind of fits a little bit into the King Green versus Jeremy Stevens mold of, is it a fight that's tremendously relevant? No. Is it a fight that's going to tell us about either guy? Also no. Well, it might tell us bad things, but nothing good, we'll put it that way. And nothing to build on. But if you're going to put them in fights, these are the type of fights to put them in. So, in that regard, again, not a bad bit of matchmaking. Continuing on down the card, you have Roman Kopylov versus Marco Tulio. That's fine. I'm not necessarily hyped for that one, but it's fine. And then Pat Sabatini versus William Gomes. That's fine again. Baisengur Susukaya versus Jordan Santos is also fine. Clayton Carpenter versus Jose Ochoa is also perfectly fine. Am I like super excited, jacked to the tits for any of those particular fights? No, but they're all serviceable, solid uses of the talent. So 2 thumbs up and a round of applause for the fine people who made these matches, because you did a good job this time, and now it's on the fighters to deliver on that good job. And we'll see if they do. So we kick this thing off with the middleweight title fight at the top of the card. Sean Strickland versus Khamzat Chimaev. Chimaev the champion, Strickland the challenger. And again, I'm having a hard time getting terribly up for this one, because I have no problem with Strickland getting the title shot. It should technically be Nasruddin Imavov, but I understand that Imavov and Chimaev have a lack of a want to fight each other, the Dagestani loyalty, the Chechen crossover. I think they're both Chechen. I could be wrong. I know Chimaev is Chechen. I forget if Imavov is. He's French, but like, yeah, where he's roots wise. And the other thing is, obviously, I don't think I would find Imavov versus Chimaev any more appealing than Strickland versus Chimaev. Maybe in the sense that Strickland always has the chud factor that is always on the table that I don't enjoy. I have to deal with Sean Strickland fans, essentially, that I wouldn't have to deal with Imavov. But in terms of the intriguing of the fight, it's pretty simple. Strickland is the better range striker. He has to define that range. He has to prevent Chimaev from getting into takedown range, because even though Strickland is not a bad takedown defender, he is not going to handle the dynamics of Chimaev. And that's not a knock on Strickland. I don't know who does in this division. There is literally no one that I would pick to be in range with Chimaev, wrestling range, and actually be able to win. Maybe someone like Anthony Hernandez could outlast him. Maybe. But probably not even. Maybe someone like Reiner de Ritter, who has a really potent submission game, might be able to do something. But I doubt it. And the problem is I just don't see Strickland doing that. He has what you would want there. He has reach, he has range, he has a jab, he has a decently paced striking game, even though it will go away at points. It can definitely go 5 rounds. Obviously, we've seen him have a great win over Israel Adesanya. The first DDP fight was fine. The second one, not so much. And of course, recently beating Fluffy Hernandez is a pretty good sign. The problem is that beating Fluffy is just, yes, that's a wrestler, but that's not a Chimaev-style wrestler. That's not a dynamic takedown threat. That's not a powerful takedown threat. That is a grinder. That's not what Chimaev is. He can grind, but doesn't have to. He starts fast. He gets in on hips. He is a relentless force of takedowns. Whereas Hernandez is just like relentless. Also, and I think this is the problem, is that Strickland knows this. His behavior leading in this fight is, I can't lose a fair fight to Chimaev, but outlining all these things that are not a UFC fight by what is fair. And I think literally he's gonna get wrestle-left. It's gonna happen. It's not gonna be super exciting. He's gonna whine about it. I think the blue-collar cosplaying of like rebuilding a wall in his house like the week of fight night or fight week should really tell you everything you need to know. I think he's setting up every excuse in the book after this when he loses. And I don't think he necessarily wants to, like, and I don't think I'm even like conspiracy theorying this. I don't think he wants a title because he says he doesn't actually really want the title. He didn't like the pressure of being champion. He just wants to be a chud. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what you are. Well, there is on a personal level, but this is MMA and fighters should not be your role models. So I've got to go with Chimaev. I'm going to say decision because Strickland is a really tough guy, really hard to finish. Actually, don't know. How many times has Strickland been finished outside that knockout by Alex Pereira? I feel like it's a really, really, really low number. Yeah, DDP didn't finish him. Jared Cannonier didn't finish him. Elias Santos did knock him out, but like this is not Santos. Kamaru Usman didn't finish him. Santiago Ponzinibbio didn't finish him. So I think he's going to go the distance. And like I think that's honestly the problem. I think I'd be more up for this if I thought that Chimaev was going to actually crush someone and kill someone and murder someone and maul someone. All the things that he says he's going to do, and then proceed to have a really lackluster fight with DDP, and we're probably getting the same thing here. So there you go. That's I guess why I'm not super excited for it as a main event, but it makes sense. It's a middleweight title fight. It's a title fight that makes sense, and there's not really anything better going on in the division right now, so I can't complain about it. Chimaev is I would say somewhat prohibitive favorite, minus 459 to minus 650, plus 372 to plus 360 on Strickland. I wouldn't bet on Strickland still. I still wouldn't touch that. But Chimaev by decision is my pick. Let's move on. Joshua Van versus Tetsuya Taira, the title fight that I am actually really excited for. I think this fight boils down to a very similar dynamic to Chimaev versus Strickland in the sense that Taira is playing the Chimaev role, Van is playing the Strickland role. The difference is I don't think Taira has the same advantages that Chimaev does. I think Van has a lot more solutions to the problem posed by Taira than Strickland does. I also think that like Chimaev, for what it's worth, has a more fundamentally unshakable aggression to him than Taira does. Taira is a wrestler. Now, that doesn't mean he can't strike. His range striking game is not bad. It's solid. He's 5'7" with a 70-inch reach at flyweight. It's more than sufficient. It's on the higher end of the division, I'm pretty sure. And he has a good stabbing jab that allows him to maintain the range. But when people have successfully crowded him, he has had problems. answering that. Brandon Royval did a lot of that. Even Alex Perez, before losing, did a lot of that. And Joshua Van is very, very good at that. He's an excellent pressure counter puncher, excellent combination puncher. He builds on it. He has speed. He has creativity. He has diversity in strikes. He has a kicking game as well in there. He will go to the body. He will go to the head. He will diversify his targets. And these are all things that I don't think Taira actually deals very well with on the feet. Now, could Taira just wrestle Mog Van? It's on the table. Ray Saruya got him down. Cody Durden got him down. So the takedown defense is not bulletproof. But in both cases, he scrambles very, very well and finds his feet very, very well. And the grappling hasn't really been a problem. When he's had problems, the few problems he's had in the UFC, it's been the fact that Charles Johnson is just kind of big and enforcing and knocked him out. But other than that, it's fantastic wins in this similar matchup with Cody Durden. With Alexander Pantoja, doesn't really count, but it's there. Ray Saruya. Like, the fact that I'm talking about, like, yeah, Durden got him down, Saruya got him down, they also lost. It's worth noting. Van doesn't necessarily have one-shot kill power. That is a concern for a persistent wrestling threat. So Taira is a test. I'm looking forward to it. But the ways Taira can win is very singular, very defined. The ways Van can win are multiple and don't require any single point of failure. The only thing he needs to be able to do is not get held down or submitted. Obviously, I don't know that he can't do that, but that's something that kind of comes up afterwards. Everything else, it's like, if the fight gets close and pressurized, he can still win. If the fight turns into a scramble fest, he can still win. If the fight is fought at range, he can still win. These are all like things. Whereas like Taira, he has to have wrestling dominance. He has to have control. He has to have the ability to dominate on the ground. Without that, he is going to lose. So I'm picking Joshua Van by decision. I'm hoping for a very good fight. I'm hoping for a legendary fight. Honestly, that is my hope. My hope for this fight is so high. I'm a massive fan of both of these guys. Although I still do think Taira has a bit of a hitch to him, where things are not necessarily as fluid as I would like. But that has been the problem of many a fighter. So it's not exactly unique to him. So I'm taking Van. I'm putting pretty big money on him because he's plus 134 to plus 144 right now. Minus 150 to minus 175 on Taira. I don't really get that. Like I kind of do, but I think it's an emotional response. Like people are mad at Van for not apologizing for winning the belt off of Pantoja by injury. And I think it's blinding them. It's making this a really good money prospect. So, the whole spiel about don't bet big money. I want to be clear, you still shouldn't be betting big money on this. But if there's a fight that you want to put, a fair wager on, this is the one. And this is I think this is the least sensical favorite on the card. There are other underdogs I'm going to be picking, but this is the one that from a pure fight standpoint I don't get, and I think it's an emotional, loaded betting line. And those are the ones where we can make money. Then we got Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Alexander Volkov. I hate to oversimplify this fight because, it's an important fight at heavyweight. It's a chance for Waldo Cortez Acosta to break into a next level. It's a chance for Alexander Volkov to shut the door. It makes a lot of sense from a matchmaking perspective, from a divisional perspective, and, it's a perfect piece of matchmaking. However, Waldo Cortez Acosta is a relatively simple problem to solve. He is very dangerous at the mid-range. He is fast. He is powerful. He's explosive. He has the athletic traits of an elite heavyweight. He has a functional game, but not a particularly diverse one. Struggles with low kicks, struggles with range, struggles with... Well, that's about it, really. Struggles with low kicks, struggles with range. Volkov is tall. Volkov doesn't mind fighting at a long range. Volkov doesn't mind doing what Sergey Pavlovich did, essentially, to Waldo Cortez Acosta. So Volkov is the pick. Waldo is the hope, I suppose, because at this point, are we really, really, really interested in seeing Volkov fight anybody at the top of this division? And the answer kind of has to be no. But do I see him having every tool to solve the Waldo problem? Absolutely. I see him being able to neutralize the threat. So Volkov is the pick by decision because Waldo does seem to be very legitimately tough, to be clear. And the odds are in Volkov's favor, minus 150 to minus 175, plus 120 to plus 144 for Waldo. That's very bettable. I'm fine with that. Sean Brady versus Joaquin Buckley. This is a very solid matchmaking deal, but after watching Usman take down Buckley, kind of at will, I do have to take Sean Brady. He's not Usman. He doesn't have the striking game of Usman. He doesn't have the athleticism of Usman, even at least the explosiveness of Usman. But he has a strong takedown wrestling game. He's very, very strong. Buckley does not stay away from the takedown range, so the lack of explosiveness I don't think is honestly a problem. Like even Colby Covington had some success wrestling Joaquin Buckley, and he's a ghost. So I have to take Brady here. Now Brady is coming off of a loss of his own, losing to Michael Morales. But here's the thing. For all of Michael Morales' weaknesses, and there are many, he's a very, 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 very unfinished product. He is more dangerous than Buckley is. He is more physical than Buckley is. And sure, he was also knocked out by Bilal Muhammad in 2022, so I have questions about the chin. I really do. But if you'll remember that fight, that was a fight where Brady was still kind of fighting against type. And I think if Brady is allowed to just pressure, come forward with a wrestling heavy approach, which I imagine he'll apply to Buckley, I think it makes up for a lot of the actual softness of the chin area for him. I think ironically the danger is when Brady is unconfident in his primary game style, not that he is unable to take a hit. So Brady by decision. Buckley hustles well. Seems to have endless cardio for a guy of his muscle mass. So there's danger there. Brady's had some cardio moments that are not great. So I'm worried about the pick. But when I'm picking Buckley, I'm basically picking one of two things. He sparks Brady out, or Brady gasses and he sparks him out. And I don't know. It's been a hot sec since we saw Buckley, really do that. Not knock someone out because he's got TKO stoppage over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson relatively recently, 2024, Vincente Luque, Andre Fiallo. But these are all people who he was able to come forward against and put them down. I don't suspect that Brady honestly will allow for that type of matchup. So give me Sean Brady. Give me Brady at minus 156 to minus 180, plus 130 to plus 150 on Buckley. And then Bobby King Green, Jeremy Stevens. Listen, I'm not picking Jeremy Stevens in 2026. That's just all there's to it. They're both 39, but I feel like while Bobby Green has fallen off, there's still something there. I don't think there's any tread whatsoever on the tires of Jeremy Stevens. So Green by decision, just because Stevens is still durable and Green has never been a reliable finisher. Would not bet on this fight because it's minus 360 to minus 440, plus 275 to plus 330, 340, on Stevens. Stevens is not a big enough underdog to have any interest in. And Green at those odds. Just why? Just sit back and enjoy this fight for what it is, which is violence between a big hitter and Stevens, who is going to get hit a lot by Bobby King Green. So have fun with it. Don't bother getting the investment of a bet on it. That's my advice. So that's the main card. Now the undercard is going to get a little bit more rough as far as actual breakdown is concerned, but like I said at the top of the show, the fights are good. It's just there isn't necessarily a lot of facets to them. Atiba Gauthier versus Ozzy Diaz. You got to pick Gauthier. He's still raw, but due to 6'4" with an 81-inch reach, with elite level athleticism at 185, a division that doesn't have a lot of athleticism necessarily. He has power. He is explosive. He's strong. He has a very limited, very basic game. It doesn't necessarily go to combinations as much as you would like. It doesn't necessarily have the problem solving you would like. And that kind of showed up in the Andrei Pulyev fight, which ended up being a fight between him and a guy who could not physically compete with him, but nonetheless kind of did. But it's also been Trayshawn Vines, Robert Valentine, and Jose Medina getting knocked out. Ozzy Diaz is someone who's going to ask some questions. He's going to fight reasonably solidly, but does not have anywhere near the athletic ability to really work against him. Does not necessarily really have anywhere near the question asking when he has fought guys who have top end athleticism. And to be clear, these are all guys that don't even have the athletic ability of a Tiba Goche. But Ming Yang Zhang and also Joe Pyfer, he has been, steamrolled. So I expect to learn some things about Goche in this fight. I expect to see him get pushed a little bit. But Goche by TKO is the pick here. Now, can you bet on it? I don't know. He's minus 970 to minus 1600. I'm not tempted by that. Plus 754 to plus 850 on Diaz. I'm also not tempted by that because it's not. I don't know. I don't even really know what Diaz's win looks like, to be honest, because he's just going to kind of fight Goche's game. It's not like he's a dedicated wrestler or a really crafty outside fighter or a guy with sudden jiu-jitsu capability. No, he's a pocket striker, and Goche should beat that up. Joel Alvarez versus Yaroslav Amosov. Now, I understand that the Bellator fighters have a relatively low expectancy right now, a low level of faith, but I am picking Amosov. He is a really well-structured striker, kickboxer, wrestler, grappler, etc. He has the complete game to attack fighters on multiple different vectors in a fight. And Joel Alvarez is violent. He is fun. He gets vicious finishes. He is awkward to deal with because he's 6'3" and a 77-inch reach at 170. He's quite large. But at the end of the day, I fundamentally don't really trust him exchange to exchange. Because when he goes for stuff, it tends to be very sudden, very dynamic. There's a lot of losing the moment-to-moment exchanges and then suddenly winning. And it makes it very hard for me not to look at the fact that his biggest wins are Thiago Moises and the ghost of Vicente Luque and not go, Amosov can be the cold, calm, collected, well-prepped, well-game-planned guy and just break him down. Bring his fight to Alvarez. Bring the wrestling. Not get caught up in the submissions. Work it. Break him down. Utilize good boxing. Not freak out because of the height and the reach. And get the job done. That's my feel. I'm going with Amosov by decision. Alvarez is a live dog at plus 140 to plus 170. There is value there. Minus 175 to minus 184. There is value there on Amosov as well. Grant Dawson versus Matusz Rambuski. It's dull. It's boring. It's Dawson. Takedowns. Control. Soap it up. Rambuski is hard to take down. Like he is a bowling ball. But he's not impossible to take down. Everyone who's tried to take him down has had some level of success in it. And they've all been worse wrestlers than Grant Dawson. So, Dawson. Decision. It's the thing. There you go. He's bettable at minus 163 to minus 182. Plus 140 to plus 156 on Rambuski. I'm not tempted by that. It just... As much as I would love to see it, I just don't. I don't really know what him winning looks like. His game goes right into Dawson's overwhelming wrestling, and it has to. Admittedly, like he's a 5'7", 66-inch reach guy. It's not like he's likely to develop this like anti-wrestling range game. Like he's not physically suited to it. So I'm not hating on him. He goes out there and he fights the way that he has to fight. But yeah, At the end of the day, I have to take Dawson, and I don't like it, and I'll be happy to be wrong. But Dawson, decision. Moving on. Jim Miller, Jared Gordon. This is a pure age pick. In his prime, Jim Miller wins this fight. But at 42 years old, no. I'm running into people that he can pick him against. He has to fight people who have, I think, a very unique susceptibility to him for me to really consider picking him to take that. Now, fortunately for him, the way the UFC has done their building of the lightweight division for a long time, there are guys who have that problem. There are Jesse Butlers and Damon Jacksons and the Gilbert Benitez, etc. But lost to King Green pretty convincingly. Lost to Chase Hooper pretty convincingly. Jared Gordon is not either of those guys. He doesn't fight like either of those guys. But he's got a well-rounded boxing, wrestling game. He's capable of grappling. And this looks like a number of fights that he has indeed won. You know, he beat Thiago Moises. He beat Mark Madsen. He beat Joe Selecki. He beat Dennis Chavez, Chris Fishgold, Leandro Santos. You know, he has lost some fights, but they've been to guys who bring more of a striking prowess, i.e. Nasrat Haqparast, or a more overwhelming wrestling game, i.e. Grant Dawson, or straight up getting robbed by Paddy Pimblett, and of course getting hit by a car when he fought Rafa Garcia. So, assuming vehicular near manslaughter does not occur, you got to go, Gordon. Now, I will say he's out at minus 307 and minus 335. I have no interest betting that line. I don't really want to touch the plus 245 to plus 252 Miller line either. Again, betting on a 42-year-old. I'm going to need more than that, but this is, I suppose in a nutshell, this line is too wide for me to bet Gordon and not wide enough for me to bet. Roman Kopylov versus Marco Tulio. I understand what both of these guys winning would look like. It is if Kopylov can establish a front foot striking based game that doesn't leave him open to takedowns, he wins because he has a more fluid striking game. He has a more diverse striking game. He has a more accurate striking game. He has a better technical striking game. This is the way to say he is a better striker if he gets to have the flow. But Tulio is crazy. And Tulio will make it very, very hard for him to be on the front foot. And he's willing to take down. He's willing to throw hands. He's your classic action fighter. There's, I think, a hard limit to him that I think too much of his game at the end of the day relies on being able to bully people. And he's just not the bully guy. He's 6 feet tall, 74.5-inch reach. At 185, that's not big enough. And he's not athletic enough to really do that. So, I think at the end of the day, I ended up going with Kopylov here just as a dog pick. He's plus 152 to plus 170, minus 178 to minus 205 to Tulio. That's too wide. Tulio is very open to getting hit, very open to getting punished. And yes, he has the right tools to beat Kopylov, but Kopylov has the right tools to beat him. So, Kopylov by TKO. It's a pure dog pick. If Tulio swings into being the underdog, I'll probably swap to Tulio. Pat Sabatini versus William Gomes. Disclaimer here, and I think it has to be said. I have been a chronic Sabatini doubter. I enjoy his fighting. This is the weird thing, because he's a guy I really like. I like the throwback of just a pure power grappler. But I just don't think it works. And of course, it has worked. It has worked a number of times that I picked against him. And so when I pick against him here, you should keep that in mind. Because I picked against him against Chepe Mariscal. I picked against him in the Joe Anderson Brito fight. I don't remember if I picked Jonathan Pierce to beat him. I think not. Because I don't think that's really a thing I would do. I have no faith in Jonathan Pierce. Jonathan Pierce to me was always like a big guy who beat people who could not grapple. And that was like basically all he offered. So I probably picked him to beat Pierce. I did not pick him against Diego Lopez, which was right. I did pick him against Lucas Almeida, which was right. I think I picked him to beat Damon Jackson, and he lost that one. Kind of ironic, but he's very, very wooden as a striker. He's very, very open to getting punished. He's very reliant on getting takedowns, and William Gomes is a big, athletic dude who's hard to control and hard to take down and very good at neutralizing. And he's very tall, 6 feet tall, 73-inch reach. The reach, not so much. It's the height. And Sabatini's 5'8" and 70 inches. So, is there ways to beat William Gomes? And I'll be cheering to be wrong, because Gomes fighting is boring in a frustrating way, because dude has the athletic ability to be an exciting, fun, violent, dynamic fighter, and instead elects to be this neutralizer that is not very fun at all. Any enjoyment you get out of his fights are his opponent. So there's that. So maybe it's a sadness hedge. Maybe it's a sadness hedge. But it's also a dog pick. Gomes is plus 172 to plus 181, which surprises me. Sabatini's minus 215 to minus 235. That's way too wide. Baisangura Susurkaev. Susurkaev. I don't know why that name is hard for me. Versus Jordan Santos or Jordan Santos. I'm taking Susurkaev here because he has a lot of potential. And Santos is blah. He's very Eric McConaughey. But the odds here. Minus 611 to minus 800 on Baisangura. No. Stay away. Do not bet that line. Bet the dog if you must. Plus 455 to plus 550 on Santos. Santos is a low-pace, relatively technical power striker, essentially. But the low pace is the problem. And Baisangura is taller than him, longer than him, and won't be paralyzed at range, in theory. So, yeah. Baisangura by TKO. Santos is super durable. But, I don't know. Like, the problem with Susurkaev is, like, you have a competitive fight against Eric Nolan and a fight that was turning against him against Eric McConaughey. Like, it's just... It's not that he's not a good prospect at 25 years old and with the size that he has. It's that people are treating him like a ranked fighter almost already. It's just, no. Clayton Carpenter versus Jose Ochoa. Love this fight. Carpenter is the grappler. Ochoa is the striker. Ochoa is super fun, creative, violent, striking whirlwind that I have a lot of time for, and he does scramble well. But Carpenter is a really, really good top guy. And Ochoa, two things. Ochoa, one, gives up takedowns, and two, will be aggressive when he gets taken down. And that can lead to him being in worse and worse places. So yeah, can Ochoa KO him? Absolutely. And I would love it if it would happen. But I am picking Carpenter by sub. There is some bad decision making in Ochoa's game and some poor grappling survival instincts at times. So either way, I'm happy because like Carpenter is a good fighter moving forward that I really enjoy, and he's 29 years old and he's still developing. And Ochoa is this 25-year-old violence god that I am very, very, very much here for. So Carpenter by sub, but I'm happy either way it goes. Carpenter is the underdog, plus 145 to plus 156, minus 163 to minus 188 on Ochoa. I get it, because we have seen Carpenter lose lately. He's on a 2-fight losing skid. It's just that if you look at the guys he's lost to, which are Tadger Ulanbekov and Jafel, they do not have the game of Ochoa. It's not something they have. It's not something they do. And there's a lot more Asu Almabayev in Clayton Carpenter. Now, granted, there's a lot of Cody Durden who got knocked out, but I still do have to. I do have to go with Carpenter. Maybe it's just a little bit of grappler bias, but I'm still going to go with it. I'm still going to buy in on it. Anyways, down below, you'll find links to the Discord, social medias, video gaming stuff, and all that jazz. Please check it out if you've enjoyed this podcast and hearing the sound of my voice.